Alrighty, so here is the review section of my actual photos I got. So my footage wasn't very great for my vlog, but I'll do a quick run through of the photos and comment on the images as I go. So when I first got here, this is where Sean was parked, and this is actually where a lot of the images were taken. Right in the back over here is actually where the cover photo of that magazine is. So if you go through these, I will. Here's Sean, clean up the car. He did a really good job of cleaning it too. There's a lot of cars I clean that are kind of gross, or the majority of them are mine. So this is, the color looks a little off, but this is the image that ended up getting used in the magazine. So it was kind of funny about this whole entire day. I had every single thing I needed except for I forgot my neutral density filter at home. So it would not have affected this image because this I shot on my 15mm, which is why it's so ridiculously wide. I honestly didn't think it looked this wide in the end, and then looked at it on the camera. I'm like, holy crap. So yeah, the 15 will always surprise me. But I was going to use it in my 24, and I forgot it on my 18 to 55 at home. And it was the one thing I did not check to see if I had, and it's the one thing I really, really wanted, whatever I may do. So I ended up eating it up through the aperture. So as I was saying in my video, all the stuff, all the foliage on the ground actually adds a lot of character to the image because it's kind of seasonal. There's not a lot of stuff you typically have in the ground. So it creates all these streaks, obviously, as you know, and they look super, super neat. This is actually not my favorite photo. When I shot it, it was, but after that I took some better ones, or, ones that settled better with me, and I'll show you those in a minute. I really like the black and white of this one. This one really pops. This is my favorite in the color. If there's, for whatever reason, these look a little bit flat. Maybe it's because I export them for web, but this one's my absolute favorite, I think, of the whole entire day because it has that nice twist to it. You have all the little roots on the ground. They're not roots, but the trail of the grit. And you can actually tell that there's the turbo rims on the car right here because if I had pulled the shutter, dragged it longer, you would not have seen these spokes really, and you might have seen the caliper, but the rims for these Volvos are actually really, really, really unique because they have like an offset that goes outward, but then the rim mounts on the back side of the rim. So this crease inside of here is actually all a huge divot, and you can actually see the crease. It's really cool. I love them. I'm gonna run them on my car because that's what it came with. So these ones were all taken with a rig, and it was attached right here and about here. So I mean, it would have come about here, and they're really cool when you get them to work, or once you get a nice workflow going, because it looks so nice having a car in motion. It's awesome. Sean was driving a little bit quick for some of them. Honestly, I kind of would have preferred to have pushed the car, but that was fine. The only reason why I say that is, especially with his car being a standard, it kind of causes it to jerk around a little bit. So it causes for the camera to bounce at the end of the pole. So that's what I'll do next time is I'll just push the car. But it's really cool, and usually I don't like to turn in with wheels, but this looks so good with it. I usually would rather have the detail of the rim, but this looks so neat on here. Again, there's those turbo wheels. This was an idea I had to mount the camera to the rear hatch of the wagon, and with a 24 is what I used for it. And it was to get the motion of us carving through the canyon. It's not a canyon, but on the sides of the hills / mountains, because it's kind of mountainous towards Glimmerglass. I don't know if it's part of the Catskills or not, but the actual main roads just weave all around all over the place, and it's super, super cool. And this was a shot that I planned out, and this one's not my favorite, but there's a lot of them that I really like. This one's really good because there's the winding road. We got some with both of us in the car, and we had some solo in case they wanted to use them for the magazine. I was kind of surprised they didn't, but that's all right. It's a kind of a cool keepsake for me, at least, for going in the future, so I can remember all this stuff. But here's me using my camera. I had two cameras with me for my shots on the sides of the canyon. Not the canyon, the mountains. I had my D3200 and I had my D5000. I had 15 millimeter on, I think, the D5000, and I had an 85 on my D3200. Had both of them with me, setting them up, and then found out that my D5000 didn't have any battery. Or no, I was missing a card. So I think I swapped a card from one to the other, or I swapped the lenses and made it work. And I was using my Pocket Wizard right here as a trigger for this camera that captured this photo. So I was able to do that remotely from the front seat. And I also had my tether tool, which I could also use as a remote to trigger it. So here's some of the details and whatnot, or not quite details, but not the full car. I get in a rhythm of shooting just the full car, and I catch myself, and I correct for it. I really like this one. It looks really clean. It's kind of dull, but at the same time, it's kind of sharp. I don't know. I like it. So I saw this rock there. I just kind of thought it was cool to get a photo of it. This right here is one of my other personal favorites. This is probably within the top 5 of them. This was shot on my 300mm f2.8. I swear that lens will make everything just melts away, and it'll just make photos look so nice. It does not fit every single use, but when it does work, holy cow, I love it. And I'm quite sure I shot this with the neutral density filter and the drop-in filter. Super, super, super helpful and necessary for shooting this stuff when it comes to daytime. This is I think there's some shade. I think it was really cloudy at this point, so I probably could have made do with both, but always have a neutral density filter, especially if you want bokeh. So it's kind of cool. I have a few photos of the front of the car where they are straight on like this. This is one of my favorites where Sean's walking away. This one right here is one of my favorites. It's funny because it just looks like almost a standard car. The only thing that gives away that it's a wagon, so you can see this roof line right here. I think it's really funny, but they have such a classic look. I love them. Super simple shot, but you know, it just looks so good like that. It was Sean's idea to come in this small little parking lot and shoot some photos, and he was completely right. And for this photo, you'd get a kick out of it. I don't have a photo of me doing it, but I actually backed my car up to the front of his car within a couple of feet or so, and I actually stood on top of my trunk deck and my rear windshield, holding the camera up with the tilt screen down, so I could kind of get a top down of the engine bay, and I think it turned out really well. It's kind of a hard shot to get from a higher perspective because the car usually gets in the way, but I really love it. Here's a K-Jet. Here's the body tags and stuff he wanted. They're from Europe, so it was a little bit different. This body tag's the same as mine. I really love these cars. This one's an original car, if you didn't already know. It's a Survivor, and it's in incredible shape. He did some mechanical restoration work on it, or had it sent out and done, and they did a really good job on it. Replaced the engine harness on it, because these cars are notorious for poor wiring harnesses. They're soy-based before, I think, 86, so with heat and time, they crack, can become brittle and fall apart. I just bought mine last week and got it a couple days ago. We will be replacing it soon on mine. I really love the cups on these two for the air intake. He actually replaced this charge pipe right here. I think it should have been a couple of bends, but this is actually just like one metal cast, which is really cool. And I think it's also for cooling the ribs. I really like this one. This is also my top favorite 15 probably. He's gotten a lot of awards for it. He's only had it since November 2020, so it's a pretty cool car. It's got some pretty cool stories. These are actually the old original plates for it when I was in Italy, so it's pretty neat. I'm going to try to speed this up just a little bit so that I don't make this video too long, but here's the classic headrest. You can put 2x4s in if you want. They're such a classic look. I love this with like the chiaroscuro lighting. It looks so good. It would be fun to drive one of these in standard, but mine's unfortunately is automatic. And I will be putting one of these third row seats in my car eventually. His is factory option for this, and I would need to find one for mine. I think they're so cool. Door panels look so good when they're in good condition. I don't even have these bottom buckets. Apparently, they just kind of break off pretty often. It's only got 144,000, I think it's kilometers on it. Yeah, it should be kilometers because it's in Italy. The only thing on this car that doesn't work is the boost gauge rate, or when I shot it. He had the original stereo put in. He found one from my friend Matt at Black Volvo Parts, and it really does help pull the look of the interior together. I really like these straight on photos of the doors because they're kind of really modular, and I really like that about them. And when you are at the same height as them with a longer lens, it kind of like it preserves the squareness of everything. Honestly, I could have had a longer focal length and backed up and have made it better. I kind of got pictures of switches and stuff because I had my macro lens with me and the cigarette lighter, obviously. Super, super cool car. I'm just going to kind of speed it up. This one right here made the first 2 pages of the main spread. I kind of like these ones too. I guess maybe I'm partial to all of them. Some of my favorites are within here. This one where he's standing in front, or the one where he's standing in the back over here, that's within my top 10. I love this one. That foreground blur and the background really, really, really ties the image together really, really, really well. I really like this photo because in the past a lot I've missed drivers, and it's kind of a detail you shouldn't overlook because the driver is as much a part of the car as the car is cool, because a lot of these cars, the owners are the ones that customize them, and they're pretty much personalized to them. So it's kind of a shame if you don't get a picture of the owner with it. And Sean's such a cool guy. He's photogenic, so it was kind of cool getting these images. And when we were up on top of this hill for the mansion, or I don't know what it's considered to be, some guy was in his car and I saw his cat in the window, so I felt like I'd be stupid not to get a photo of the cat, so I got it. And here's the Finger Lake. I don't know which Finger Lake it is. I'm very uncultured in terms of the Finger Lakes, but one of these made the index page. And I talked to some local people, which you'll see photos of at the end of here, and they said that this was actually a poor year for foliage. This is actually really green because it's so wet out. So it's still really pretty, but apparently it's supposed to look like it's on fire on a good year. So I think it worked good enough for us, but it would be really cool to come back and revisit it. And the sun really made for a really cool photo here. It made for really good photos there with that lighting on there, the rim lighting. And here I'm starting to back off from the car a bit, and I'm starting to compress the background, so I was probably shooting on 105, 1.8. And you'll see more photos at the end. Here's the 2 local guys I talked to, and I thought they were kind of funny, and they kind of told part of the story, so I wanted to include them. And the reason why these photos are going to be out of order is because I have 2 cameras, and the naming sequences are very different. So these right here are going to be from my D3200. We drove up this one seasonal road when we were doing the interior shots of it rolling, and up that road we had to turn around at some point, and we look out the window and here's that 69 Judge. Whether it's real or not, I don't know, but it's still super cool to see a large A-body car like that. Quite sure it's A-body. B-body's a Mopar. So I thought it was part of a cool story. You can actually see in this photo, here's my camera rig. So I had a suction cup right here. That was the main support for the camera. And then I had another one with a friction arm over here. So I finally have had redundant suction cups or redundancy within the rig. And what it has is a magic arm right here. And there's a threaded hot shoe mount right here so that it holds on the camera on the top in case this one were to fail. Here's another photo of it. And right here in this pouch is my tethering tool. It's a Cam Ranger 1. I kind of want the 2 or a tether tool, but unfortunately that's what I'm using right now. It's a little laggy. I saw these cars go by and honestly it's kind of a pretty picture. Not the best composition. This one's better. I really love these photos. So this is the one where my cameras were mixed up. I had like a card missing in one of them. So super cool, and I like how this swept into the frame, and I really love how the road sweeps through the frame. That was something I completely planned out. We went for a drive up the road to plan everything, and I told him I was going to do this, and we did. And this made it across 2 pages in the magazine, and the layout was so great for it. This is one of my favorite straight-ons. It's kind of hard to tell which one's my favorite, but this one just looks so subtle. No polarizer, nothing special. It was a D3200 with an 85-1.8. And I think it was shot at like 1.8 or 2.2. So, you know, for that rule that everybody says you always have to have a polarizer, no, you don't. It blocks out Sean a little bit, but honestly, the emphasis for me is obviously the car in this image. So here's some leading lines I was trying to play with the bridge. Oops, we're going a little fast, but they were okay to be honest. And this was an okay photo too. I wanted to shoot it straight on in parallel or perpendicularly to the car. I'm getting tired. Fortunately, that covered bridge in the back was not actually for cars, so we couldn't bring the car to it. Honestly, it was one of those features we kind of forgot about. And I think that is all I have for photos for now. I'll show you the rig in a minute. Okay, so starting off the next section of my video, I want to explain the rig shot. A lot of people aren't familiar with this, and it's a cool technique, and it creates for a really cool illusion. You'll find out with a lot of photography, a lot of processes are creating illusions of things. Anyway, specifically within this photo. So this is a rig shot, and you will see that if I get my tablet plugged in, you will see that it looks like a full car. It doesn't look like anything's disrupted, right? So what you have here is the full car. Everything looks nice and blended. I know where some hiccups are in some of my photos, but I don't think that there is one on this one. There actually might be. This might be the hiccup right here. But now I have my tablet plugged in. So for a photo like this, you want to see what it starts as? It starts like this. So this right here is the flat image straight out of my D750. I shot it with my D750 and a 24mm 2.8, and I think I probably stopped it down to about f16 if I had to guess, because I did not have my neutral density filter that day. So as you see here, there's this pole that extends. The photo doesn't do it very much justice. It looks like it's way shorter than it actually is. It's about, I would say, probably about 10 feet or so. I'm completely guessing how long it is because I haven't measured it. But I have 2 suction cups right here that adhere to the paint, and you have to figure out where you want to place those, and you kind of want to be strategic so you don't block off spots of the car that you're going to have to essentially bullshit your way out of. So this is a really nice placement for it. This could be a little bit better because I did lose a little bit of detail in the wiper area, which I did have to create myself. And if you looked at it really close, it wouldn't look nearly as good as it truly is in the other sections of the photos. But essentially what you do is I take my uncompressed image from Lightroom and I take it into Photoshop, where I don't do any global adjustments at all. So I don't do any kind of color correction, I don't do any kind of sharpening, I don't do anything. All I use Photoshop for in this case is removing the rig. And to do that, I use the stamp tool, and you're constantly sampling different areas of the image, and you're painting over where the rig is, and you also want to have your reflections too, because that would not look good without it. And you also want to do your shadows. I have a photo where the car is turning inward, where the wheel's pointing inward, and the only remnant of the rig is actually just the shadow on the grill. You would really have to pay attention for it or know what you're looking for. It doesn't really deter from the image, but I know it's there, so it's funny stuff like that. But essentially, you take samples from the image from different areas like here, and you start to move them inward. You kind of start to pucker it. You kind of move back and forth. You want to make sure you have all these lines that flow, so you don't see a light spot right here. You want it to look real. And remember, this body line right here was definitely an interesting part of the car, and you want to make sure that that reproduces correctly. So you want to make sure that your gradient from this hot highlight to this mid-tone to the dark tone in the crease, you want to make sure it's consistent all the way through. So I was constantly sampling pieces from here, and I think even up to here, trying to piece this together. Most of the fix probably came from about here to about here, but what I found is important is you want to feather things out so you actually do take samples from other areas, because if you sample too close to where you've been sampling, you will get patterns and it will look wonky, and it'll be a complete telltale that you photoshopped it. But if you want to see what it looks like when I fixed it, this is going to be after the color correction and the photoshopping. It also has lens correction, so you're going to see it, the whole entire Volvo actually like implodes a little bit. So this is the finalized image. I don't think I did much more for editing beyond that. But the biggest difference you're going to see is the fact that there is absolutely no more rig. You honestly can't even tell that it was there. There are people that do this better than I do, but it's all a matter of practice. But it looks so consistent. And once you finally add that color grading, it just gives it all those tones that you want. It makes everything look so nice and crisp. And I think for this one, I actually did use lookup tables on it that I created for it. I'm not a big fan of lookup tables for the most part, and presets. I rarely use presets of any kind of sort. I make anything that I do, if I do a whole entire sequence, I'll make a standardized ballpark and I will still modify everything from there. So I think preset wise, if you really wanted to get specific, I used my own preset for sharpening and lens correction and chromatic aberration and color fringe. That's about it for the preset. And then in terms of a lookup table, I used a warm lookup table, and I have some screenshots in here somewhere. You'll see in a moment. I think I have it at maybe 6%. I'm very sparing on color tables because they really wash out an image really quick, and it's not my style. So I'm going to show you the black and white of this. So here's the color, and here's the black and white. Honestly, the black and white for me pops really good. It's kind of hard to not love the black and white. The only regrets I kind of have with it is this tone right here might be just a little bit darker than I would like, but it doesn't really bother me that much. And I kind of pulled some gradients into the sky. Probably should have cleaned up these little specks of dust on the sensor, but That's why you don't shoot a super tight aperture. This is going to show all the blemishes of the sensor. So, judging by these, I was at least f11 shooting these. So, let's go to the progression. We're going to go here. So here's just some snippets of my work in progress when I was working on it. I kind of shut these to Sean just to show him. He's a graphic designer, so he knows about this stuff too. So I don't know. I always get a rise out of being able to look back and see what it came from. So this is when I first started doing a little bit of Photoshop work on it. I removed the post on it and a little bit of the suction cup. But as you see here, I have a cheater guide right here. I learned that from Andrew Link and from a few other tutorials. You can use black and white filters, or you can use levels, which is what the cheater guide is. And essentially what that helps is blending these lines. You can faintly see here in the paint, like the shadows from the clouds. It helps you line up the lines and make it look consistent. It's a lot of stuff you probably wouldn't notice with your eye, but when you take care of it on a very, very fine level, you'll never notice with your eye. So here is the other one. This is the cover image. Didn't know if it was actually going to be. Thought there was a good chance, and honestly, I like this one more, but that's fine. I like them all, but we all have our own preferences. I think it really did suit the cover, though. So you can see on this one, I actually removed everything for the rig on it. There's not much for shadows because I was in the shade, and tried to imitate the shadows or emulate it. And obviously this pole is still here. This is about one of the harder parts of the image to Photoshop, I feel, just because there's so much of the real estate that's blocked by the pole. You lose a lot of detail. So here was the before, and this is after I removed the whole first suction cup and the reflection of the underside of the pole. And you can see here are my my lookup tables, and they look quite dramatic here, but I don't use them nearly close to the intensities as they are at their fullest. As you can see, I have them at 7, so it's about 7%. So very, very minimal. And this is me just playing with different presets. Here it is. Here is the image after I was done with photoshopping it. And if you actually want to know a stupid little detail, because I lost it and I didn't feel like I could reproduce it. If you pay attention right here, you actually see there's no more driver mirror, unfortunately. But I did have to fix the snow cover here and the wiper arm and the edge of the windshield. But you can see it's quite flat when it starts, and I always love seeing what it looks like once I finally do my color correction. And you can see the grill area pops right away, and everything, in a way, it flattens out with tones, but it also there's a lot more texture to it, and there's a lot more definition, even in this area that was kind of flat. One of my favorite parts about his car, which is funny, is he's got the older license plates for New York before they went and got ugly. And I think that's all I have for screenshots for the progression. So let's see what else we got here. So, all right. These were the finalized images I had, and they're good. I mean, I think I had like about 300 or so deliverables, but these are just, the 2 examples. So, first of all, I don't know if I should be doing this, but I also know the difficulties of otherwise seeing this stuff. So, first of all, make sure you support your small print and your print-based media. So, with that being said, I'll show you the magazine. So, as you see here, this is the cover, and I was so excited to see this when I got a text from Sean. So, pretty cool. We thought about removing the lines, and I kind of grew lazy and thought it was okay without them. It's kind of cool because this car was used throughout the whole entire thing, even was here in the index. I thought it was quite suiting. Paul over at Jacob's magazine, he's the solo worker there. He made the whole magazine. He's the one that publishes it and writes the articles and whatnot. Does a really good job with layout. I was really impressed by it. Having gone to school for layout, I was like, "Ooh, this is really good." I'm not super great at layout, but he's really good. So he definitely makes my stuff look better inside of here. So this was the first spread of the magazine for the article. Um, I do have the English translation, and this is cool. He had a lot of work sourced out to other freelancers on like Instagram and stuff. He submitted the photos with it, and here's like the pages about how he got the car and how it looked like. The car actually came from Italy. It's why it's an Italian marketed car, so it's got a lot of different markers and stuff. It's kind of cool, and this is a picture of it when it was inside of the underground garage that it was stored for. I think it was like 20 years or so. I don't remember. Don't quote me on the exact number of years. This illustration was made by my friend Douglas out in Vancouver. Super, super cool. And this page right here, as you see, well, I thought it was cool that he included a black and white page. These were all my photos on this page. These I shot when I was out in Trumansburg when I first met Sean at a Volvo meet. I went there with the intentions of meeting him and meeting other Volvo people, and it's kind of cool that it turned into a friendship like this. I shot these at the fairgrounds, and this was one of my favorite photos. So is this. Something about with the framing of this one just really settled pretty well with me. But I do like my black and whites to be kind of a little gritty, not very gritty, but I do definitely like my tones and my definition within the image. So I don't know. This is my style. It looks super good. I think this was actually one of the few times I do use a polarizer. I used it on Sean's car that day, and you can kind of tell by the tire on this one and the fact there's no reflection on the windshield here. But this right here was one of my favorite parts of the magazine, was the fact that he included that image and included in the layout as it hung over from one page to another. This was just one image. It wasn't a panoramic. He actually trimmed it and made it a panoramic, which made it look so much better. I was so happy that he did that. I didn't ever think to do that. This was one of my favorites, as I told you in the previous clip, 300-2.8. This one right here, also I told you, it does a pretty good job of capturing Sean's personality. And it's super cool because there's so many images in it, and it's cool that they're mine too. I think that's the majority of the article. Please support Jakob's magazine. It'd be cool. The only reason why I show you this stuff is because one is behind the scenes, and two, the availability to get the winter issue of 2022 is probably out of print by now, so that's about the only way you're going to be able to see it is if I show you. So here's some just behind the scenes as we are done with the day and packing up to go back home. This was an image from the shoot that I was debating whether I actually wanted to do anything with, and I kind of decided against it because it just didn't suit what I was looking for. What drew my attention to it was I had all these leading lines in it, and there's like all this cool texture in the ground because of the prints on it. But I kind of felt like it was a turn off because you could tell it was a driveway. I don't know. But still kind of cool. I could always go back and Photoshop it and turn it into a finalized image. Let me know if you think I should. And yeah, this is just saying bye to Sean as I went back home and he went back home as well. So then we grabbed some pizza right before that, which was pretty cool. And 3-hour drive later, we both got home, and the wagon got home intact, and so did my crusty nug. So I think that's all I've got for photos right now. So I hope you enjoyed watching, looking at my images and listening to my processes. Yeah, F16, that's what it was. So I'll have to do this again. So let me know if this is something you like or not. So let me know in the comments. I'll be keeping up with some more content. So thanks for watching. Yay.
You're a Volvo owner, you got a cool ass Volvo, but you need some parts for it, make sure to give my friend Matt from Black Volvo Parts a call or an email. He's got a lot of really good OEM stuff. Super nice quality. I just got some stuff for my wagon a few weeks ago, so be sure to check him out.